Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on Solo RPG Friday, we are taking a look at Space Aces, the new guidebook. Let's read a little bit about Space Aces here. In outer space, there's tons of stuff to do. When you have a thing that you want done, contact the Space Aces. We are mostly competent, heavily in debt, and highly motivated. Welcome to the Space Ace Brigade. The galactic gig economy is alive and thriving. The galaxy is chock full of things that need doing, anomalies that need exploring, and pickles that need unpickling. You, dear recruits, are just the ones to do them. You won't live to regret your choice. Mostly competent and highly motivated is good enough in our books. Remember, the contract is sacred, your debts are real, and the alternatives ain't that great. So buckle up and strap in. Adventure awaits. So Space Aces, the new guidebook, is a rules light solo RPG chock full of all kinds of generators and things to get a game going super quickly. It can be played with a GM or solo, and I have only played it solo. This game is available to purchase as a PDF from DriveThruRPG. I purchased the PDF quite a long time ago, and when I went to print it out, my computer was having trouble with the PDF. I'm not sure if the designer has updated the PDF on DriveThru, or maybe I'm the only one that is having issues, but I contacted the designer and he said that he would actually send me a physical copy. So there might still be physical copies left. You might want to check out the spaceacesrpg.com, or maybe get in touch with the designer on Twitter there to see if there are any hard copies left if you want one. So Space Aces, it reminds me a lot of 80s anime, especially the kind of anime like Dirty Pair or Crusher Joe or Space Adventure Cobra. The kind of anime where it's a group of adventurers, of space adventurers, working for some kind of organization that sends them out to do dirty jobs. Whether that's going and rescuing space miners, or maybe taking care of a prison riot in space, that kind of stuff. So if you are a fan of early to mid 80s space anime, I think you will like Space Aces a lot. I think it is a pretty awesome game and a system for generating all kinds of things. So we're going to go over in this video, we will touch on my adventure so far. I will do an overview of the book. Then together we will create a mission and a character to show how that works. And then I will give you my final thoughts. So let's talk about my adventure so far. So I am playing as two characters. I am playing as Sam Foyle and Angela Antella. And they are a husband and wife team who are working for the Space Aces to help pay off their debt that they owe, a gambling debt. So here we have Sam Foyle there and Angela Antella. Their ship that they travel around in is called the Star Sparrow, and there's a little profile of the Star Sparrow. The Star Sparrow is small, it is agile and fragile. These are the different systems that you have for when your ship takes damage. You have sensors, weapons, engines, shields, reactors, and hyperdrives. I have 2 shields. I have a reactor of 1, a damage of 1, and I am speed fast. It is shiny, and the quirk is it is uncomfortable. It is too small for people to sit in. So that's kind of like the quirk of your ship. And it has a perk. It is we have very stylish uniforms. So Sam Foyle and Angela Antella are very stylish Space Aces. And here are their character cards here, or their character sheets, I should say. The cool thing about this game is almost all of the basic rules actually fit and are represented on the character sheet. So your characters, we have a name, we have a skill, and a style. Then you have a number of stats. You have 5 stats. You have Moxie, Smarts, Wiggles, Friends, and Pockets. And when you generate your character, you will put in these numbers into those stats. So you have +3, +2, +1, 0, and -1. Moxie is how you approach things head first, head on, kind of physical confrontation. Smarts is if you approach things with your brain, thinking about them. Wiggles is using your wit or wiles to get out of situations. friends is how well you are socially connected, and pockets is how well you are economically connected, or how apt you are to have the thing on hand that you need. Gumption is kind of like your hit points, but it is more than just physical hit points. Your characters don't really die in this game. When they lose gumption, it might be from taking damage. It might be from taking emotional damage. It might be from being insulted or failing a task. Your gumption kind of like represents the stat that would govern a Saturday morning cartoon. That's kind of what this game also reminds me a lot of, our old Saturday morning cartoons, where characters don't die per se, but they can be taken out of action by taking enough damage to their gumption. Anytime you do something, you will have to hit a difficulty roll on a d20, and you will also roll a d6, which is a complication die. On a 1 or a 2, you will suffer a cost whether or not you beat the difficulty on the d20. On a 3 to a 4, you have a standard outcome, and on a 5 to a 6, you gain a benefit. And everything will be either an easy, tricky, hard, or epic difficulty. And every time you do something, you need to think about what is at stake. If something is risky, what happens if you fail? If things are uncertain, what happens if you fail? If something is dangerous, what could go wrong? If it's none of the above, then hey, why are you rolling dice? You also have another stat called grit. Every time you fail a roll, you earn a point of grit, and then you can spend 5 points of grit to turn a failure into a standard success. You also have these various ailments, and depending on how many ailments you have, for each one you have marked, you will be at a -1 to all rolls for any time you roll the dice. And you can also take an ailment to gain 2 points of gumption. Finally, you also have a heat level, and this kind of represents the overall danger of your adventure, of your mission. Anytime you roll a 1 on the complication die along with the d20 and you suffer a cost, then the heat level goes up. As the heat level goes up, you need to think of worse consequences for when things fail. So this is kind of like a timer. It can also be used to be a target number. It can be used as a way to govern the danger of your mission. I love how all of these systems on the character card, the character sheet, I love how they all work together. I love how almost all of the rules are present on your character sheet. It's a very easy game to play. It's a very easy game to get into. So we have Sam Foyle here and Angela Antella. Those are my two main characters. My mission, we have a mission sheet here, and we'll go over this in detail, but here's my mission. I was hired by species 4774, that's a generic term, and then you can roll up your species. So I was actually hired by this guy here, we'll talk about him in a minute, to deliver a message to a lost expedition at a colony planet of Charon. That is an artificial world, and I have to explore some ruins to find some a lost group of explorers. I have to watch out for a hive mind species that are blocking communication. To pull it off, I have 3 steps. I have to locate Charon, the artificial world. I have to bypass or confront the hive mind, and then I have to explore the ruins for the lost expedition team. Eventually, I said at heat level 10, there's going to be some kind of catastrophic event involving a creature or an enemy, and I'm not sure what that is yet. And the snafu, this is what opens up this mission. You always open up a mission in action, in media res. And so let's take a look at my species 4774 here. And this was all rolled up using my imagination and some of the generators in the book. So we have the Ketonians, and this is a giant cat race. And that's the size of a normal human there. So as you can see, they are very big, Totoro-like. And they are this cat species that floats around in these space suits. And because cats are curious, they float around space trying to find things to explore. They are curious cat explorers. They are large. They mostly have a gumption of 10. They are mostly aloof. They just like floating around in space looking for things to explore. They're floaty. They're curious. The Ketonian who hired me, his name was Zax Oreo. He mumbles a lot, but he is quite wealthy. So he put together this expedition team to go to the planet of Charon to find some MacGuffin. And the game also comes with a MacGuffin maker, so you can roll up on this chart to put together a few icons to come up with what they are looking for. But he's also arrogant and indebted. I said that, so how do I reconcile wealthy and indebted? He is wealthy, so he hired this expedition team, but because they are lost, he feels that he is now indebted to that expedition team, and so he has hired the Space Aces. He has hired Sam Foyle and Angela Antella to go and find them and see what's going on. So he sent a team of explorers to a ruin on Charon to locate a lost artifact for his museum. And I rolled up a relic. So the relic, it's a relic/weapon key, and it's a symbiotic multi-spanner. It's used to unlock destructive potential of Charon, the artificial planet. Does Zaxorio know that this is the key to a weapon and that Charon is actually a giant planetoid weapon? Yes, but I rolled up that. So I'm not quite sure what his connection, what he knows yet. So that is something that I'm going to find out on my adventure. So far, I started off in the presence of the debt collector. They wanted to collect debt, kind of like, Jabba the Hutt and Han Solo there. The debt collector wants payment. It's from a rogue government agency. We failed to deliver goods for what we thought was a civil conflict, but actually they were terrorists/rebels. And now we are being blackmailed, but they want to work with us because they want the money. So I was able to convince the debt collectors that we are in the midst of a well-paying job. And of course, that is being hired back by Zaxorio there. And I was able to roll up, and we were able to convince them that we have payment coming. We just need to complete this job, and then we will make a payment on our debt. We convinced them to let us go and do the job only if we agree to wear homing location devices. So I might say that at heat 10, using the heat level as a timer, at heat 10, because of my snag, a creature or enemy snag, something will complicate things at heat level 10, that maybe the debt collectors will come in and be some kind of a third party source of conflict between my couple and us trying to locate the expedition team. So in a game of Space Aces, you will also have a sector name. My sector's name is the Morian Deep, and you will keep track of things that you have found while you are exploring outer space. And you can keep track of things with coordinates of a D20 and a D6 if you needed to roll up random coordinates there. So one of the problems with spacefaring games, spacefaring RPGs, is that space is very, very big. As Douglas Adams says, space is big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. And that is true. If a game was true to life with how big space is, you would wander around and probably never run into any kind of random encounter because there is a lot of empty space. I am playing a game in a complete opposite kind of reality. I am saying that my sector of Morian Deep is overflowing with life. It has an abundance of life and things to discover. So that is how I have chosen to play my game. So I have a lot of fun coming across a lot of various things. So in my adventure, we are moving towards Charon, the planet. I am saying that it is located somewhere in row 17, and I need to find the actual place it is in 17. So I am heading down from the Space Ace headquarters, and I am going down to 17 here, and then I will have a 1 in 6 chance of finding the planet as it is roaming, because it is an artificial planet that kind of roams around, not in orbit. So far, I have traveled through space, and I plotted my course, and I came across a supernova, and this supernova disabled my hyperdrive on the Star Sparrow on my ship there. And as I was stranded in this supernova, we came across a derelict ship, and the derelict ship was also stranded in this field. I decided to explore the derelict ship to see if I could find the parts to repair my hyperdrive and also to refill my ship, because you do have to keep track of fuel in this game. And it's a little loosey-goosey on how you actually do that. I am using the amount of fuel as kind of a timer in between random encounters. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we look into the book here. But I came across a rival crew who was also looking for repairs, because this supernova, this energy field in the supernova, is kind of like a Bermuda Triangle. And so then I went to this derelict ship. It was a starship. It was extracting energy from the nebula field, but it got trapped, and who knows how long it's been trapped there. There was a difficulty level of 5, but that difficulty level went up to 6. So anything that I did in that particular kind of dungeon crawl, when you go into derelict ships, it becomes kind of like a dungeon crawl, and you have to make a certain number of progress before you run out of supplies in order to find what you are looking for in that particular dungeon that ruined that ship. I came across an airlock, and in the airlock, there was a cybernetic weapon that was locked in the case. I was able to unlock the case, and I came across the Flux Blaster, which is a cybernetic weapon. I said it's more of a cybernetic tool. It's used to control gravity, and you can attach it to your head, and then you can use it to move around small pieces of cargo. It installs on the head, but because it's cybernetic, I need to find someone to install it on my head. I'm not sure if Sam or Angela are going to wear it or not, or maybe I will use it to sell or to give away for a piece of information or something. After we found the cybernetic implant, we came across we went into a corridor, and then we came across the rival crew. They were called the Space Punks. And we had to fight the Space Punks. The Space Punks are kind of small, diminutive people. They speak in monotone voices. They are well connected. They are irritable and unstable. And I came across 3 of them, but I dispatched of them. And then I finally found the parts that I needed to repair my ship and to refuel. So I headed back out. I then came across a pretty large nebula that takes up all of this space here. And so in that nebula, I came across a stellar jellyfish. And that stellar jellyfish is here. So the space jellyfish, a large space jellyfish, it has some very primitive eye-type sensor things. And so this feeds on nebula energy. The stellar jellyfish was actually in peril. And I said, why is it in peril? Was it because it lost its young? Yes. So one of its young is in peril. And right now I'm trying to think of a way to hopefully rescue its young. The space jellyfish is psionic, and it has a psionic storm ability. It's a class 2 space entity. It has 20 gumption and does 3 harm. So this is a relatively kind of giant space creature, and I don't want to attack it. I want to help it because I need to use some of that energy in that nebula to refuel, I should say. And that's kind of where I am at right now. I'm trying to figure out what I am doing with this space jellyfish. And almost all of this stuff that I've talked about was generated using the Space Aces guidebook here. So let's talk a little bit about the book here. So the book is relatively short. We have about 32 pages, 28 pages of charts and things to roll up. It offers up a ton of quality content in a small number of pages, and I really appreciate that. I like how simple the rules are. You can be up and playing this game in a matter of minutes. So we have how to play Space Aces, the basic rolling. So like I said, you will roll a d20 and a d6. You will either have to hit a 5, 10, 15, or 20 for your difficulty level. So easy, tricky, hard, and epic. And you add your stat to whatever kind of thing you're doing. And you have to come up with a narrative reason why that particular stat is being used. So if you're rushing head first, you might use your moxie. So Angela Antella, she is kind of a hothead. She's the hothead of the couple. And Sam Foyle is more of the cool cucumber of the couple there. So Angela takes care of a lot of the combat. So she might rush in, blasting. Her skill is blasting my way out. So she's always into blasting things away. And so if she comes across some kind of problem, she might want to blast. Let's say you were coming up against a medium difficulty creature. That would probably be a tricky, so that would be a 10 or higher. So she would add 3. And so she would have rolled a 15 plus 3 is 18. On her complication die, she got a 3, which is a standard outcome. If she had rolled a 1, she still would have done the thing that she set out to do, but the 1 would have suffered a cost. So we would have had to come up with something that was a setback, even though she succeeded. And because you rolled a cost, then the heat level would also go up, which would raise the stakes for future challenges. If she would have rolled a 5 or a 6, then she would have gained a benefit. And benefits can be, cost and benefits may be mechanical, tactical, social, physical, emotional. You do what's right according to the fiction or the rules at the moment. This game requires quite a bit of interpretation at the table, whether that is you as a solo player or a two-way street of communication between the GMs and the players. It's a very cooperative storytelling game. We have an overview of all of the stats: Moxie, Smarts, Wiggles, Pockets, and Friends, how Gumption is used. So Gumption is your will to stay in the mix. As with superheroes and Saturday morning cartoons, characters can shrug off almost any amount of damage. But if you break their will to fight, that's another story. And then we have getting into scuffles. So scuffles, conflict, physical, mental conflict. That could be anything from, as it says, from fights, fist fights to gunfights. It can be pie eating contests, anything where there is a potential for one group to get an upper hand and to defeat another group, whether that's in a competition or anything like that, or a fist fight. Then you are in a scuffle. And scuffles, this game is players are always rolling the dice. GMs never roll dice for any kind of mechanical thing. And so if the players have the upper hand, they are taking the action against their opponents. If their opponents have an upper hand, then the players are reacting to what their opponents are doing. You also have a way of creating complex task challenges. So that's challenges that have multiple steps, and it has a pretty good progress track system to keep track of that. And then after just a few pages of very simple rules, again, most of the rules are on the character sheets, we get into all of our generators. So we have a mission generator. This is how you come up with missions. This game is very episodic. It's about taking on a mission, going, accomplishing that mission, heading back to HQ, taking another mission, and so on. We have episode events. So these are random events that can happen. We have a way to explore planets. So when you explore planets, you will explore a 6 hex large hex. Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A 7 hex large hex. And you always start here, and as you explore out, you will roll on various charts to see what you find. You have different types of planets. Planetary pickles can happen. These are kind of wrinkles in your adventure that happen on a planet. We have different kinds of prefixes and suffixes for planets, different cultures, aspects, and features of interest. We also have charts for rolling up your star ruins and your space hulks, your derelict ships. Outer space is brimming with labyrinthine space ruins and space hulks, chock full of valuable loot, monsters, and dangers. Can you find the treasure and escape alive? Probably not, but the pay is good, and you are just dying to try. So we have different types of starships, colony station, caves, ruins, the aesthetic, what its purpose was, the danger level, if it's easy, medium, or hard, how much progress you have to make to progress through that dungeon. And when you are in a dungeon, when you are in one room, you will say what you want to do. And if you succeed on that roll, then you make progress, and you make progress towards finding your ultimate goal. If you fail a roll, then you use some supplies. If you ever use all 4 supplies and then you continue to fail, you start losing gumption. So it's kind of like a timing mechanism to get through that dungeon crawl quickly. One place where I think this book falls down a little bit is it doesn't have generators for generating each random room. That's going to have to be something you bring to the table. And I think that is a really good opportunity to talk about something that I really do like about Starforged. So even though I was not a big fan of the game itself, the Starforged reference guide is highly valuable for any kind of spacefaring science fiction adventure game. And so you could use this reference guide to generate your space dungeons using your derelict zones here, or after the derelict zone, using your location themes to come up with the various things you are finding in space or on planets or in ships. So I was using this in tandem with Space Aces, and this was the only additional tool that I was using to play this game. You will also have ways of rolling up random monsters, hazards, and treasure. And then here we have our starship shenanigans. We have small, medium, large, and huge ships. We have starship quirks, perks, and how you got it. And then also rules for starship scuffles for space battles. Very simple, but it gets the job done. And then here we have our rules for traveling through your sector map. We have our hyperspace hubris. So this is what your sector, what you discover, whether you have space weather or smooth sailing, what kind of thing you discover when you have a random encounter. If you discover an opposition, a distress signal, another ship, a space creature, an onboard issue, or a strange encounter. And then we have our subtables for distress signals, space weather, another ship, ship status, space creatures, onboard issues, and strange encounters and strange anomalies. So traveling is I wish the rules were a little more concise, a little more nailed down as far as using fuel. You have a certain number of fuel. You have 3 points of fuel, and you can travel up to 2 squares for 1 fuel. But it doesn't really have any rules on how to refuel or what you do when you run out of fuel. So I basically use fuel as a kind of timer that dictates how much time is in between each encounter. And as I run out of fuel, then I have an encounter. And at that encounter, I have an opportunity to refuel. So that is how I'm handling space travel. And then we have a bunch of random charts for rolling up friends and enemies. What kind of people they are or what kind of beings they are, if they're helpful, what kind of notable quirk they have, a demeanor, an exploitable flaw, that kind of stuff. And then when you come across more exotic types of gear, you have a whole bunch of charts to roll up for coming up with gizmos and gadgets. That was how I came up with that cybernetic, the flux blaster there. And also the symbiotic multi-spanner, that key that unlocks the potential of the artificial planet Charon as a planetary weapon. I came up with that using that chart there. And then here we have some full-on anime, a bunch of charts to roll up your various kinds of mechs that you might find and you might want to pilot. So you can be a mech pilot. That's super cool. And here we have charts for coming up with massive monsters, your massive space creatures, like this stellar or space jellyfish. I used these charts here to come up with some of the things for that. We have besties and beasties. So here, if you're a fan of Pokemon or Digimon, you can roll up little creatures that you can raise and train, and you can level them up and they can become your kind of little companion. And you also have some charts to come up with some backstory baloney for your NPCs and characters. And then finally here we have some experimental charts. So this is the lab. Not all ideas are created equal. What follows is a list of maybe interesting, probably unbalanced, possibly fun, and completely optional rules one might wish to include in their game, or not. It's up to you. One of the things I like here is the player professions. So the characters don't really have classes when you are creating a character, but you could roll up on this chart here to come up with your profession. So you could be a 618, an ace, kid detective. Okay, so that would be your character class. Or perhaps you are a 414. You are a notorious, a little small there, a notorious chrononaut, so some kind of time explorer. And you have a few different little things here that you can roll up and keep track of, a little module rules that you can introduce into your games. We also have a MacGuffin maker, and I printed out this on a small card and just taped it to an index card. so I can have this handy in case you need to roll up some kind of weird MacGuffin or something like that. And then we have a character sheet, and hack this game. You can create your custom tables there. All right, so let's create a mission. Now let's go through creating a mission and see how that goes. So Space Aces is an episodic game, and it's best played in that way. You think of your characters starting off like the Ghostbusters. You know, they are hanging out at their headquarters, and they get a call. They take a job. They need money. They need to pay off their debt. They need to repair their ship. So it's a gig economy. There's space Uber. There's space Instacart. No job is too small as long as the pay is right. And so let's roll up a mission here and see what maybe this episode, your episode of Space Aces, might be. So the first thing you do is you roll up a faction. So who are you hired by? We are hired by an Explorer Corp. So this is an exploration mission. So Explorer Corp. All right. You can come up with the name if you want, but you are being hired for an exploratory mission to retrieve or infiltrate. Let's say retrieve. So retrieving is always fun when you're exploring. So this is your basic kind of pick up and deliver or fetch quest. What is your objective? 2, a gizmo or treasure. Let's do a space treasure hunting mission. So a treasure, we can come up with something. We could possibly roll up on that exotic item to come up with the thing, the MacGuffin that we're looking for. We could use the MacGuffin maker. Let's do that. So this is a 6-8 table. Let's roll up 2 MacGuffins and see if we can come up with something. 64, so 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So some kind of cosmic clock thing. And 3, 2. Clock wolf. Okay, so this leads me to believe that this is some kind of thing that we have to do in a certain amount of time before something transforms into a beast. So I'm going to say that this treasure is a thing that when you hold this mechanism, it will allow the user, the holder, to transform into some kind of beast. So this Explorer Corp, they want this mechanism so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. This thing that could change people into dangerous beasts, something like that. So that's how you could use that MacGuffin maker to help augment, to help flesh out your missions. So we need to go to, this is the location where we are going to retrieve this treasure. 3, a star ship or a shipyard. Let's say that is at a shipyard somewhere on a planet. So we might have to do a little planetary exploration. And the location 6 is in ruins. It has hidden things. So this is a shipyard ruins. So lots of ships, and maybe a junkyard or something. Maybe this mechanism, this relic, was on a ship a long time ago, and it crashed on this junk planet. And so now we have to rifle through, we have to explore this ship junkyard in order to locate this lost relic. Okay, so we need to watch out for who is the opposition on this particular mission. 3, a friend or a rival. So we could say that this is a rival explorer. So we are kind of on a race to do this in a certain amount of time. So that would be a good opportunity to maybe use your heat level and set a timer. So you could set a timer at 12. And so if you have 12 failed rolls during your game, or if you suffer a cost, if you roll a 1 or a 2, 12 times before you find this ruin and this relic, then your rival has found it before you have. Very simple, handy way to add dramatic drive and pressure to your game. I love it. And what is your opposition's agenda? The explorer wants to destroy an enemy. So the explorer, your rival explorer, they want to retrieve that relic so they can use the power to transform into a beast to go out and destroy somebody who they don't like. They want revenge. And the snag is something where a major twist comes in. And that's another thing that you might want to keep track of on your heat level, maybe halfway through, maybe 3/4 of the way through. Something will happen that will add a snag. It'll add a wrinkle to your mission. And here we have a tough decision or a trap. So you would write tough decision or trap there. And now to flesh out your mission, you want to come up with a 3-step process. So this is kind of a guide. This is kind of an outline of the adventure. So what 3 steps are you working towards to accomplish your goal? And then you would push off and set off towards accomplishing that particular mission. Very easy to set up, very fun. You constantly coming up with new interesting things when you are combining this MacGuffin generator and all of the different generators in the rulebook. I really do love this game. It is my kind of science fiction gaming, this kind of pulpy, wacky, kind of anything can happen in outer space with all kinds of different adventures. It's super easy to play. I like the rules. I like how the heat level, the grit, and your stats and the gumption, I like how they all work together. All of the various pieces, while the rules are very simple, when you combine them in different ways, it makes for some fun and interesting gameplay. And it's always pushing the narrative forward. Every time I sit down to play Space Aces, I'm never at a loss of what to do or what happens next. Because every time you roll the dice, you know by the combination of the difficulty check and the complication die, you know if things are going your way or they aren't. You know if you are gaining high ground or losing high ground. As you lose gumption, then your character starts to suffer from more ailments, which can help drive some narrative. As you pay for costs, your heat level goes up, and as your heat level goes up, you know that the consequences are going to get worse for you as you fail more. So just really, really cool system. I highly, highly recommend Space Aces if you are looking for a rules light, super simple space-faring adventure solo RPG, but one that can really focuses on narrative and pushing things forward. If you need more, if you need a few more things to add to the generators here, because some of the random tables are a little light on information. So I do recommend the Starforged reference guide to help populate some of those generators that may not have enough information for what you are looking for. But if you like things like Space Adventure Cobra or Dirty Pair or Crusher Joe and early 80s anime and that kind of space opera adventure, then I do highly, highly recommend Space Aces. It's cheap, it's easy to get to, easy to play, and a whole lot of fun. So, all right, guys, well, we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.